But I told him I'd stay until
Until
they,
they find somebody, yeah.
but I said, I highly recommend.
Did he pick up the phone when you called him?
It took quite a while to ring, but yes, finally.
Really?
I called him to tease him today,
Oh.
and I texted him even, and he didn't.
He's usually quite responsive. I was
Yeah.
Well,
It was
there-
about-
there was a reason.
There was a reason,
He
okay.
was, yeah, he was in the car, so I could tell by the phone.
He always calls back, so.
Yeah.
McKay showing up today?
Yeah. But if you know.
Guys don't coordinate.
Yeah, I told him, I said, I don't, because I don't know anybody on the other side of the city. And I said, I recommend you get somebody on
Because
the eastern side.
Bruce is there, so.
Because McKay's on the south side, I was on, and now you got Bruce on the west side, so
Yeah.
you need to spread that out.
Another woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear me?
Because they need somebody
We
else.
have enough realtors. Oh,
Hi, Randall Kempton here. Am I on?
Randall, we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Are you going to start singing for us?
he could.
What do you want me to sing?
Star Spangled Banner as we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll decline, thank you.
Okay.
Well, okay, since we can hear Randall, we'll get started, okay? Okay, we'd like to welcome you all to our November 7th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting. We're happy to have you here. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Vanessa will lead us in that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, Katie, can we have the roll call, please?
Vince Haley.
Here.
Todd Marks.
Here.
Randall Kempton
Here.
is on Zoom. Sally Smith.
Here.
Aaron Richards.
Here.
Jim Lawrence. Bruce Casper.
Here.
McKay Francis. Vanessa Johnson.
Here.
Rob Woodall. Brian Thackeray.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we need an approval of our planning and zoning minutes for October 17th.
Randall Kempton is here.
Yes, we called your name.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Okay, thank you. So would someone like to make a motion on the
I'll make
minutes?
a motion that we approve the minutes as they're written for October 17th, 2024.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion or additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Is everyone here? Last time you weren't here. Okay, I believe Bruce or Aaron were here. Were you here last time? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about a plat, Adara at Teton Lakes, and we'll turn the time over to Alan.
Sally, I'll go ahead and recruit myself.
Okay. Aaron is one of the owners of this property, so he'll recuse himself.
Okay, we wanted to clarify one item on here. This is not a public hearing, it was listed on there. This is just a review by the P&Z, and it will require an action item by you when we get to that point of whether to recommend approval or not recommend approval to City Council. This property is located They've changed our viewer, so I have to get used to it. Property is located right here, this parcel, located next to Pine Brook, and then the golf course is right here, just for reference. So you can see where this is at. The applicant has submitted all the paperwork required and has met the standards required in our subdivision development code. and is prepared at this point to present it to you guys. Public Works has signed off. They can service this and provide what they need to. And so we're recommending it for you to consider recommending approval to City Council.
Okay, are there any questions for staff or for Aaron?
Well, Aaron may want a.
Do you want to
comment on
give
this.
some comments? Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan, can you just review with those in the meeting, the process of what happens from here to city council and so forth?
Right. What happens here, and the main reason for this meeting is you're actually providing something, or the applicant is, to the city that will eventually, we have to take over ownership of the sewer, the water, and the roads. And so that's why we have to make sure that it meets the city's standards before we bring it to you for approval, because once city council accepts it, then they take on that responsibility upon completion of the project. And so the process here is bring it for you to review, to make sure it meets the standards it needs to. Once you recommend it or recommend not approving it, then it goes to city council in their next meeting, and then they'll review it also and decide whether to approve or disapprove at that point.
Okay, so I have a question for you, and maybe this is for Aaron too. So it looks like to me 157 lots, correct?
It's 160.
It's 167.
Oh, okay, or citizen. Okay. Okay, I just have a question on the access. I know that that's past all the, different things, but
Yes.
is there any connection to Copper Heights or anything to get out the other way? Because it doesn't show us that, it just shows us that there's one access.
It shows it on the plat.
Okay,
The little corner that dodges out there on the west side, you can see the red around
the
it.
red, okay.
There is an access from there onto Winter Drive.
Okay, and then that would go back to 2000 North.
Then it also has a connection onto Ferris Lane, going back into Sunrise, up in there where you see Ferris Lane coming across.
Okay, so there are a couple of ways out.
Here.
Ways.
And
Okay.
then there are two connections coming to the south
On the unplatted property.
on the unplatted property.
Okay,
Yep. So
All
they've
right.
done their connectivity to all areas that they need to.
because, with the traffic, certain,
The idea behind
Study
that
and all that, there's plenty of
connectivity, our whole goal is if somebody wants to go from Copper Heights into Adara, we don't want them to have to go out on a main road and back and around.
they can stay
They
inside.
can stay within, and it helps reduce that traffic on your major roads.
Thank you. Any questions?
And Alan, again, for everybody's understanding, in order for the plat to get to this point, it would have had to go through city staff and all the different departments and make sure that the plat meets those requirements in order to be then approved.
Correct. They'll meet planning and zoning requirements per the development code. They'll meet the engineering standards per Public Works. They'll also meet the fire district's requirements for, they got the right widths to this, have the fire hydrants in the correct place, all of those things. Those all have to be signed off before we bring it to you. And even the legals, because once we approve everything on our end, GIS checks it to make sure all properties close correctly. Then it's sent to the county surveyor, who then looks at it to verify that this does meet the requirements of the county. So all of those are steps we go through before we get to this point.
So we don't have to worry about any of the details.
No,
We just worry about land use.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, and that is an interesting process. People should know what is there 25 things on there that they're going through, so.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
It's a job.
Takes us a long time to read all that, so.
Yes.
Okay, Aaron, do you want to talk to us?
You mean this?
The color ones.
Did you pull up the colored ones?
They're in Laserfish.
Okay.
I can also email them over if you need.
Yeah, it was in the PNC packet.
It was in there?
Yeah. It's in there.
No,
No, size down.
No, it's there.
While Alan's pulling that up, evening, commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to present this.
Do you want to go ahead and do your name and address for us?
Yeah, Aaron Richards. This is embarrassing. I just moved into a rental and I don't have my address. 651 South, 2400 West, Rexburg, Idaho, 83440. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so Adara at Teton Lakes, we have been working with staff for exactly a year. The plat was submitted 1 year ago this week. So it's been a very meticulous and careful planning process as we went through both the zoning ordinances, but also the intended use of the land. We're planning a very unique project in the sense that this will be Madison County's first age-targeted, maintenance-free lock and leave community. So what does that mean? It means the entire community has been designed around a particular lifestyle. So as we did the land plan, as we did the lot sizes, the frontages, and we're working with a Utah landscape architect as far as the design for the actual home lot surrounding the home. We're also working with JRW for the design of the home itself. I know I'm not going to really spend time on the actual home design, even though we've got that, because that's outside of the plat. But because of our development agreement with the city, and because of our deed restrictions that are required by the city, I wanted you to be aware of what we've got. So it's a 62-acre community with 5.7 acres of total open space. So we have a large 2-acre community park right at the entrance. We have a large 2-acre, yeah, if you pull that one up. There's just zoom in there. It's a 1.8 acre park right there in the center. Yeah. And then a 2-acre hike and bike trail down the center of the community. And what that does is, as this is not going to be age restricted, it's not going to be 65 and up, but what it is age targeted. So the actual housing product being 1 story, where there's no barriers to entry, no steps. The HOA will provide full maintenance of the yard, front and backyard, and snow removal during the winter months. So you're going to have very uniform maintenance. You're going to have a very attractive streetscape. The design is also going to incorporate the first water-wise community, where 50 to 75% of the landscaped area will be drip beds and hardscape. Now, a typical lot is 70% lawn. So it's 70% rotors. All your surrounding communities around us, is all large lawns, large water use. We're gonna have the lawn areas down to about 20%. So this is gonna incorporate a lot of research from Utah State University and our Utah landscape architecture firm to be respectful for the actual water usage out in the yards. And we've also got 3 different focused areas. Is a casita, cottage, and a courtyard as far as the housing size. So there's going to be a mix of square footages all the way down to 1,000 square feet. So this is not going to be big bloated homes. These are going to be very targeted. From 1,000 to 2,500 is going to be the median of the home size. They will be expensive because of the construction and this type of hardscape landscape. But what they're going to allow is, this is the feedback we got from the community. When a Rexburg resident is looking for a place to downsize into a zero maintenance lifestyle, there's almost nothing. There's a few options. Now, if you want to be a renter, the homestead has options. But if you want to be owner-occupied, zero maintenance, it doesn't exist. If there's a Sunbird looking for a summer housing product, this is what we'll address. But the interesting one is, if you're 65 and up and you need a simplified due to surgery or injury, or my father is a 100% disabled U.S. veteran, there's really no housing product that's addressing that demographic in our community. Now, the US Census, and I know I'm taking a little bit of time, but I mean, we've been working on this for 2 years, so we're really proud of the product that's going to be going out there. There are 7,600 households in Madison County. 65 and up represents about 900 households. And there right now is 0 age-targeted housing. So that's in Rexburg. Madison County, you would double it. So there's almost 15,000 households in Madison County. 2,000 of those are 65 and up. So there's a large demographic that has generally been just kind of left to fend for themselves. So we're trying to provide a very attractive, well-thought-through community that's going to have common areas, pickleball courts, bocce ball courts, hike and bike trail, and then a water-wise community that's nailed down in a development agreement with the city. So that's what we've been working on, and our plat has now been approved by staff, and so putting it before you for approval. Open for questions.
Any questions?
Aaron, what's your price range on these for the homes?
Well, it'll be a lot.
Good
Say
question.
it's affordable.
No, I didn't say
It's expensive.
affordable. I said it'll be expensive.
Yeah, that's why I want to,
Yeah.
because some of the stuff I've read, there's the fact that it's affordable. What does that mean in today's markets?
Sorry. We're not doing subsidized housing. We're not doing affordable housing. This is all going to be new build. It'll be north of 250 a square foot. I don't actually have pricing for you today because that's still fluid.
It's not pertinent to the decision.
Right.
True. But to put any lot on the ground today,
Yeah,
it's very expensive.
yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts, so it'll be expensive.
250, 300,000.
More than that, yeah. It'd be hard.
That's just
Yeah.
speculation.
Yep.
How big are those lots?
The lots range. So,
Range?
yeah, there's different sizes because we have 3 different housing products. The average lot size, I actually calculated it. Average lot size is 10,600 square feet.
That doesn't help me, I'm dumb.
Okay, sorry. Quarter acre.
To
Fourth of
Madison.
an acre.
They're a quarter
Quarter
acre.
of a mile, half an acre, quarter of an acre.
Quarter of an acre. Yeah, quarter acre.
Any more questions? All right, we will go ahead and have some discussion here then. Commissioners.
Chairperson, so, nothing against Aaron. I'd ask this question against anybody. But there was some project-based information there. Obviously, we, in the past, have not allowed that information to be given to us because we're land use only, right?
Well, this is actually a plat, though, you know.
So do we consider, that, my question is, do we consider those kinds of things?
Not as far as the decision is concerned.
Some of this you need to, because some of those are requirements we put together. The zero-scaping for reduced water, that's an agreement that the city had to come to. The amenities of putting the parks and that in, those are all things that helped reach that decision of moving this forward.
Perfect.
So house size, cost, not really a concern.
Age target, that kind of thing.
And that even, it gives you a little bit because it tells you the type of what's going to happen in this area. So,
And where this is not a public hearing, we don't necessarily need to worry about the letters that were written in, right?
No, they're just, yeah, a couple of letters of support, but no, we don't, so. I don't know, this looks like a really nice plat and something probably that the community has a need for. the town's definitely growing that way. It's a little bit out of town, but, or well, it's in the
It
town, in
sounds
the
pretty
city.
promising. I mean, it's something you'd think about moving into for yourself, and you wanted to downsize.
It's actually a great area for this particular kind of project, right near the golf course there. You know, I know if my wife's stepmother would be all over it because they love golf courses.
It will be a great location.
I know how hard it is to find one-level homes, because I keep getting called on mine. The realtors must all know exactly from all over the place. They're calling me.
Well, and with the growth in the town, you have to serve every demographic, so that's important, I think, so. Yeah, I think it looks like a nice project.
Well, my only concern is the traffic, a lot of that. There's gonna be a lot of traffic out of there. But I guess if you figure if you're retirement, you're not gonna be on a regular schedule going to work probably at that point.
So it'll split it out a little bit.
I would just be worried about the neighbors out there. There's some rough neighbors.
Several of them.
No, I think 12th West has a lot of capacity left. And the city recognizes
Yes.
the increase in traffic, though. Randall, you were about to say something?
I appreciate you saying that about traffic. So I was just going to comment to Aaron. I applaud you for the xeriscaping, the low water usage, those kinds of things that haven't. This first project I'm aware of that. Well, you said it's the first water-wise project that we've had, and I'm grateful that we've got something happening like that. So I think there's a lot to be said for this kind of project, and I appreciate you taking the thought to do it. So.
Good. Any other thoughts?
No, I think, the last hard discussion the city council had about the byway around town, somebody said, well, why are we building it that way? Because all the development's on the other side of town, and that's true. And Aaron has picked a good spot. There's room for growth out there, with Pine Brook filling up, with the other developments around this filling up. There's obviously a need for that area to continue to grow.
Great. Okay, are we ready for a motion? Go ahead.
You signaled to me. I would motion that we make a recommendation to city council to approve the plat of Adair. Is this Adair at Teton Lakes? Adara at Teton Lakes? Okay. Approve the Adara at Teton Lakes because of the need for continued development and for this type of housing in the area.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend this to city council. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, one opposed. Okay, we will send this recommendation to city council. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have anything else before we have our training set?
Just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. We are going to be making some changes on the P&Z Commission due to people timing out. Todd is getting very close to that. In fact, he's hit his timeline. The county, he's appointed by the county, and so the county is working on a replacement for him at this point. Vince's time has also came up. We were working on, and we had somebody that had accepted, but due to circumstances, Rob Woodall is not going to be able to serve continuing. So we're looking at putting Vern in his place and then having Vince. We've asked Vince to stay for another couple of months till we can find somebody to replace him, just so you guys are aware of what's going on. So we appreciate all the time you guys do spend at this. It's time out of your day and night, whatever that you do, so it is appreciated. The other part of this we wanted to get into is, as we were attending APA Idaho, the American Planning Association of Idaho meeting in Moscow, they were showing us some videos that AIC has prepared, and it's on different things within a planning and zoning commission and how to conduct meetings, what some of this stuff means. And so what we're going to do tonight, we're going to show one of those videos, but we're also going to email you a page of links. There's 17 of them total, that you at your time can look through those if you choose to. But as we hit these meetings where we only have one item or very little on the agenda, we want to take that time and do some training within that. So if you're okay with that, we will move forward and do that. Hopefully we can get sound on this also. This was rules and quasi-judicial decisions, and I know Spencer has touched base on this before.
Hi, I'm Darren Flute, the former president of APA Idaho and a consultant with Jacobs Engineering Group here in Boise. Previously, I was the planning director with the city of Boise, and I am here to speak to you about rules and quasi-judicial decisions. Quasi-judicial procedures exist to protect individual rights through due process, which is established in both the federal and Idaho constitutions. Due process of law means that governments must comply with certain procedural requirements in situations where individuals may be deprived of life, liberty, or property. So the government cannot deprive individuals of property without providing notice and an opportunity to be heard. Landowners have a property interest in site-specific land use decisions, meaning that due process requirements are necessary to protect the rights of the landowner. Quasi-judicial proceedings must be impartial, meaning there are no conflicts of interest and no ex parte communication. That is, communication outside of the public hearing. And decisions must be fact-based and meetings must be recorded as an audio recording. Quasi-judicial procedures are required on land use decisions made on site-specific properties. The types of decisions subject to quasi-judicial procedures are initial zoning following annexation, rezoning of specific parcels or sites, conditional rezoning, subdivisions, variances, conditional or special use permits, planned unit developments. Quasi-judicial decision requirements can be found in the Local Land Use Planning Act, affectionately known as LUPA. Decisions must be based on express standards and objective criteria in your comprehensive plan and/or your ordinances. Decisions must be in writing and accompanied by a written statement that explains criteria and standards, facts relied upon, and rationale in making the decision. The legislature directs the courts to be practical in their review of decisions, emphasizing fundamental fairness and remedying only actual harms, not the mere possibility of harm. Direction for the procedural requirements for quasi-judicial decisions is contained in LUPA and include public notice and public hearing, impartiality, free of conflicts of interest, no ex parte communications, and a record of the proceedings. Now let's dive into what these rules specifically involve. First, public notice and public hearing. Another video in this series covers open meetings, public hearings, and successful outcomes, and provides information on the public hearing requirements for quasi-judicial decisions. But for the purpose of this video, a valid decision must be made in a meeting that is posted under the requirements of the open meeting law and is listed on the agenda as an action item. The motion and vote must be in the minutes. Impartiality. The second rule of quasi-judicial decisions is that the members of the commission or governing board essentially serve as judges, receiving testimony and evidence upon which they base their decision. Impartiality provides one of the most important foundations of quasi-judicial decision-making. It can be exercised by being fair and unbiased, providing due process to all, and avoiding conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. Unbiased. An essential attribute of any judge is that the judge must be unbiased and fair to all sides and protect the due process rights of the applicant. In quasi-judicial matters, the commission is acting as a judge and must be able to make a decision without any bias toward individuals or circumstances. A commission member must honestly review their biases, consult with their legal counsel, and not participate in any proceeding where their bias may impact the decision.
I'm sure that for the citizenry who go to a planning and zoning hearing or a city council or board of county commissioners hearing, it may seem like they're strangers in a strange land. In 1980, in a case called Cooper versus Ada County Board of Commissioners, the Supreme Court imposed a new decision-making standard on local governments. And it said that you have a duty to accord due process to the participants in the proceedings, and that there are rights involved here, and so you have to base your decision on the law and the facts, not just who's most persuasive. And it isn't just a case of counting noses, but it's a case of understanding and stating the rationale for your decision, like why does the law and the facts lead you to this conclusion? You have to keep that neutrality. You can't be seen as an advocate. And if just one cautionary note, had instances where public officials have been advocates in a quasi-judicial hearing and have been sued by the person who didn't get the permit, and their personal judgment there's been judgments against them personally and judgments against the governing body they serve on. So you don't want to encounter that. You got to be in the judicial mode and act upon testimony by both sides or by all sides in an equal way, fair and equitable manner.
Conflict of interest. Another attribute of impartiality is that the decision maker must be free from conflicts of interest. LUPA strictly prohibits participation by governing board members, planning and zoning commission members, or staff when they have a conflict of interest. LUPA defines conflict of interest as any proceeding or action where the individual or his employer, business partner, business associate, or any person related to him by affinity or relation within the second degree has an economic interest in the procedure or action. Simply put, conflict of interest arises when there is a financial gain to the decision maker or a family member. If there is any chance of a conflict of interest, the decision maker should seek the advice of the agency's legal counsel. Any actual or potential conflict of interest must be disclosed before the proceedings begin, regardless of whether the person participates. In some cases, the conflict must only be disclosed, but in others, the commissioner cannot participate in the decision or proceedings. The decision as to whether a conflict of interest exists, which in turn determines whether the individual will participate in the proceedings, is made by the individual themselves, ideally with the assistance of legal counsel. Disclosure does not affect authority to be counted for the purposes of determining a quorum. Ex parte communications. Impartiality also requires that decision makers have no ex parte communications with constituents concerning land use applications. Ex parte communication is defined as communications regarding a substantive issue in a pending matter between an interested party and a decision maker out of the presence of other interested parties. Ex parte communication occurs when decision makers discuss a site-specific land use issue outside of a public hearing. Such communication outside of a public hearing is considered fact gathering. Under the law, all fact-finding leading to a decision must happen within the public hearing where notice to the public and the opportunity to rebut evidence is provided. And if the information imparted through ex parte communication is important to one decision maker, all decision makers involved in the decision should hear it at the same time and in a public hearing.
And that's probably one of the hardest things for public officials to get their head around is, yes, I can talk to my constituents and should about almost everything, unless it's one of these, which they really care about. And that is a challenge to communicate that effectively. in the local community that I reside in now, Islands, and they include that in the public hearing announcements is you cannot speak with the decision makers. I mean, you just can't state that enough because it's contrary to common sense.
This can be difficult in small towns where someone approaches you in the grocery store and wants to talk about an issue. Officials should stop the conversation and let the speaker know that they cannot talk about site-specific decisions outside of a hearing. If the person persists, the decision maker must disclose the contact and put the information they were given on the record at the hearing. City and county officials often feel duty-bound to listen to the concerns of their friends and neighbors. However, this presents a serious problem in quasi-judicial decision-making because decisions must be based on testimony and evidence reflected in the public record. Fact-based decisions. Decisions must be made based on the information in the public record, which is comprised of all communications and public testimony presented at the public hearing, as well as the code. LUPA is very specific on this point, which states, whenever a governing board, zoning, or planning and zoning commission grants or denies an application, it shall specify the ordinance and standards used in evaluating the application, the reasons for approval or denial, and the actions, if any, that the applicant can take to obtain an approval.
One of the challenges and the changes that hasn't always been made is the ordinances that these decisions are based on need to be made with clear enough criteria so that everyone knows what the rules are. And getting those criteria in there, there's a tendency to want to leave a lot of wiggle room in your ordinances, and sometimes that's good. But if you do that, then it makes it harder to make justifiable decisions.
Planning and zoning commissioners should become familiar with the Idaho Ethics and Government Manual and seek their attorney's advice whenever there is a question of conflict of interest or procedures for public hearings. Finally, follow the 10 commandments of good quasi-judicial decision-making. These include follow the code, avoid politics, be politically correct and dignified, consider the evidence, make a good record, make written findings and conclusions, support the decision with real evidence, impose only lawful conditions, do not ignore staff recommendations, and finally, think like a judge, act like a judge, and decide like a judge.
I know this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, but I really felt like hearing this again and off and on, almost quarterly, just to remind us, even I'm going through that going, oh yeah, I got to remember that part of that. And I think one of the key ones that really clicked for me was that very last one of, you're a judge. You guys are all judges at this point. So you're looking at the evidence provided by staff, by the applicant, by the public, and you're taking that and weighing all of that against the law, which is the code, and saying, does it meet it? Do they meet the requirements? And is this the right thing? So most judges are supposed to be impartial when they sit on that stand. If they're not, then they need to recuse themselves or find some other, I guess at that point you can either recuse or not be involved in it at that point. But that happens on individual basis. And I know we've had instances where people have stepped up and cornered you in a supermarket on the street and says, you gotta vote my way. And that's when we like you to come in, let us know. You can visit with Spencer to know, is this something that I can just declare in the meeting, or do I need to recuse myself at that point? So there's some really good
Can I
stuff.
make a recommendation?
Sure.
Never show that video to somebody that's not yet on the commission. Because that will scare them into not
Vern, did it
being
scare
a
you?
commissioner.
Well, you see that I've been in the opposition, so
Right. So, yeah,
someone stops at the grocery store.
You can stop me.
it's not a.
Anybody can stop me because I'm not the one making the judgment. But what'll happen is when you're on that, you guys' resource is staff. If you have questions, I don't understand, or I really need you to clarify this for us, please understand, you can come to us, call us, whatever you need to. for clarification, to understand better. So that is open to you. The discussion you can't have is those that may oppose it, or even the applicant that wants you to swing it their way. Those are difficult questions to deal with. Any questions you have besides that? And I'm going to give Spencer a minute to come up and,
Okay, because I was going to ask him a couple of things.
okay, then let's turn it over to Spencer.
I don't have anything per se. Any questions?
I just think that something that we need to talk about a little bit is how hard it is for two things. One thing is when we have a room full of people here, you know, that are, well, so against things because they don't come if they're so forth, right, you know? Because I think that's very difficult, because you'll see people in the room that you know, and you do have to remember to look at the whole picture. But I think that that's something that is very, very difficult. And the important thing is to remember that you're not looking at, you know, you can't please everybody. So you've got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, I think a way, and we've talked about this before, there has to be some context, or there has to be, you have to view things in different eyes. Because as you look out into the crowd, there's, how many seats would we say in here? Somebody do a quick count.
About 60.
60 seats in here. And how many residents in City of Rexford?
About 39,000.
So we can have 60 people that are very frustrated and opposed to zone change, to a project, whatever it is. And when 60 people are here frustrated, we have to remember the hundreds, if not thousands, of people that the project could potentially benefit. And so there has to be some unbiased thinking there. We can't be influenced necessarily by just somebody being frustrated. That being said, I'm very grateful that we have individuals who come and express themselves, because oftentimes they bring up points and they have very valuable things and feedback that are reflective of the greater community. And so there's finding that balance. And so you can't be completely swayed by one thing, but additionally, you can't just ignore it and say, well, you know,
I
I'm
think
not going to hear anything.
you always need to come with an open mind. I mean, we are people. We kind of know what we think, but you always need to be willing to listen. And citizens have great ideas. We've found that out over the time. And I think the other thing that's really, really hard, and I think that's when we need to be careful, and if our feelings are strong, maybe recuse ourselves. And that's when something is our neighborhood or our neighbors or our area, you know. We need to be careful. We still need to remember that, again, it's for the benefit of everybody, so.
I agree. Two things that came to mind in watching the video. Who was it? The Association of Idaho Cities, and or do they work under ICRIM?
Yeah, or the one guy does, is ICRIM. Yeah. Jerry doesn't,
The
but
Association of Idaho Cities. They partnered up, ICRIM, AIC, and APA Idaho. Three of them came together.
that was so.
So again, talking to somebody, and the reason within the video, it's don't talk to anybody about a specific project. That's a very they present it as a bright line rule. Again, it's something that we can work through, that even if it does happen, and I've had this conversation and we've done through it before, it's not an automatic disqualifier. And so the reason that in their training and everything, they say, hey, just avoid it in the first place. It's not a bright line rule to disqualification. Again, it's going to end up with me asking you specific questions about the conversation and things like that. But keep that in mind, that it's not just necessarily a bright line rule that is a disqualification moving forward. So again, we're human, we make mistakes. If somebody in passing makes a comment to you, come talk to me and we can disclose it on the record and decide if there's any issues with it, and then you can remain on a project if there's not any issues moving forward.
You'll find that you can't stop some people. They won't stop.
Number two, the doom and gloom of the video of the filing suit against not only the commission but the person individually. I think maybe that's what you're referring to, Vince, and don't show that to anybody, the video, before they move it.
I'm just.
Well, it struck me where it was
It
like.
seems overwhelming, the responsibility to be fair and equitable and not make any mistakes after watching that.
I think on the appearance it would, and in some places it may seem that way. The benefit that every member of this board and future members of this board have is a very, very strong staff that goes through and makes sure that we're essentially all complying with rules. I mean, I've helped in other municipalities in their planning and zoning. We take this for granted. We take what Alan, what Katie, and what others do in getting this information prepared. Very typically, when they have these things presented, for instance, I mean, the plating, you look at the Idaho State statute on plating, there's a reason that applicants take a year to go through those things, because it's extensive. When it's presented to you, there are sureties and that these things are being taken care of, and then they're complying with those things. But then number two, if you have questions about any specific things, Alan's here to answer those questions. And Kyle, I'm not gonna leave you out. But the kind of the personal liability standpoint, again, I haven't heard of anything that in Idaho. The only thing I could think of is if it went beyond even your role as a member of this commission and it turned into like slander or libel, anything like that. I know that there are rules about public hearings where anybody who participates in a hearing that is not made public, or that notice wasn't given in violation of open meeting law, can have a civil fine against every individual member.
I don't know of any in Idaho. The only case that comes to mind, because we sat through some of the legal cases, Boise had one on a rezone of a whole section, but it was more on, they didn't believe, they disputed it because they thought the reasons weren't valid. And the reasons for decisions was 9.5 pages long. That they told for doing, we're talking hundreds of acres of ground that they were trying to.
The Association of Idaho Cities, or this
The Hillside Association.
versus the Boise Neighborhood Association.
Yes,
That's
that
what it
was
is.
the one. And basically, when it got to the court, they looked through it and says, we only believe 1.5 pages of this fits your reason for decision, and we don't think that's enough for this large of a project. They didn't rule against it, but they sent it back to them and says, you need to go over this again and give us some better ones. So that was one that kind of stuck out. No individuals got in trouble. It was just more, hey, you got to give these guys a better reason than what you're doing.
Just the last thing before I turn if Alan needs any more time. We had a previous member of this board who did something that I appreciated sometimes. Sometimes I thought he was just doing it to remind people that, applicants have paid significant money and have put significant time and resources into these projects. Kind of before every hearing, he would state, hey, just a reminder that this person has paid $1,500 just to be able to stand in front of you today to ask permission to do this on their land. I think at a minimum, all we can do is, if we're going to be on this board, is have the respect and take pride in what we're doing to review the documents carefully before we get into this hearing. We owe them that. We owe both the applicant that and the members of the community that, to be aware of what we're looking at, because again, we only see it in a period of a few days. Aaron, how long have you been working on that project?
2 years.
2 years. And I won't ask him about any specifics about financial and the work that they've put into that. But these are people's livelihoods, and we owe them that at least, to be able to come in prepared, know what we're talking about, know the issues that are presented to us, so we can make a fair and equitable decision. Thanks, Alan.
Just one other thing I wanted to touch on. I mentioned that we're looking for another member to basically replace Rob at this point. one of the requests that Sally has given me, and I think it's an excellent idea, is we want to recruit your help in finding others that may want to serve on this, and then let you guys have a discussion on it, have some input on who we bring onto the commission. This is going to be people you're working with. You know, between all of us, we know a lot of people within the community, but you're meeting people daily that may be perfect for this. We would love to hear any recommendations from you. Rob's would be a city one, so they would have to live within city bounds to do that. Vince was in the city. Todd, where he's in the county, in the impact area, then that has to be done within an impact area also. So, but even then, if you know somebody in the impact area, when we hit that point, we love recommendations. So,
So how many, so do we just have 2 in the impact area?
3.
3, so that's Todd, Bruce,
Todd, Bruce, and McKay.
and McKay is also in the
That's-
impact area.
Yep, those are the 3 have in the county.
So go over again what their vote count says.
Their vote count
Right, don't their votes have more
in an impact area
in
decision,
an impact?
those
Okay.
3 are equal to the other 8. So if.
Because we had
if
that
those-
come up one time, we had trouble
We did.
counting, I think, but,
Because the problem was we only had 2 impact area and only about 4 or 5
so,
city council. So Spencer and I had to spend a few minutes running the
Trying to figure that
calculations of
out,
the
yeah.
values.
that's why you have to learn those, right?
Yeah.
Just pull up a fresh.
So it makes it interesting. So other than that, we do have one coming up in the 19th,
21st.
21st.
There's nothing on the agenda.
Nothing on the agenda, but we do have one for the 5th of December.
Of December, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then could I just say one more thing? And I guess this is training too, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too. But when we get an email from Katie about the meeting, please respond so that she knows that she shouldn't have to chase us down
I
every
was going
time.
to ask you, if I reply yes on the like calendar invite, do you get that?
Do you get
I don't
that?
have
Okay,
to
yeah.
reply, I won't be there. Okay.
Because I don't think that's fair that she has to chase down every time whether we're going to have a quorum or not. So just out of, you know,
Yeah, if you accept the invitation or deny the application, it sends her a notice.
Okay.
Either way.
so I mean, it's simple. You read the email and you click, so yeah, and then she wouldn't have to chase us down. You look at that and you go, well, sure, I'm going, but then you don't.
Well, and the big challenge we have is as simple as this. Aaron spent 2 years getting to tonight. And I'm picking on you because it's tonight, but any applicant, they're showing up. Some of them travel from outside of the state. And then all of a sudden we show up and don't have a quorum and they're going, wait a minute, it would have been nice if somebody had told me and I wouldn't have made the trip out.
And I don't think we've had that happen,
We came close one time.
right, but I think that we've,
I
yeah.
think we've always been able to, because that's where we try to chase down and make sure we have a
And
quorum
then if
or
somebody
notify
can be
them
online, that helps too. so,
before
yeah.
that happens.
But it is easy to let her know. I mean, if we did have to cancel for some reason, for that reason.
And Bruce, I don't care if it's a text. I'll take a
No, just
text. If you
anything,
don't
yeah,
want to
just-
do the other, I'm fine with that.
So does anybody have
You
a,
have to have opposition in all things, don't you?
We do. Is that your task in life, is to be opposition?
so does anybody have any issues how to access the information so that we can come prepared? I mean,
The packets?
anybody have any questions on that or?
Does everybody know how to get into their packets? We will train you.
I was unable to view some of the documents for tonight's plat.
It was off for a while this afternoon again.
Yeah, they would, well, I was trying at 6:30, 6:20
Oh, yeah.
for the meeting, and I was able to see staff report. I was able to see a couple of documents, but some of them came up with an error, so I wasn't able to see
Laserfish thing
all of the, yeah.
We've
able
got
to see
some
all of the
challenges
documents.
with our Laserfish right now. They're working on that. I think there's an upgrade coming soon. If that hits, sometimes you just have to back out and come right back in and it will open. If it doesn't, send Katie or I or Kyle an email. Because what'll happen is we have to get hold of IT and they have to reboot the computer and then it comes back up. So,
Yeah, Randall, I had the same problem earlier this morning, and I just had to,
Yeah. Then it came back on later.
yeah, I just had to pull out completely and then
and go right back
go back
in.
in. Yeah.
We're hoping it's fixed here soon. Aren't they doing that fairly soon?
Yes.
Okay.
Good answer.
IT saves us a lot, and IT
Yeah,
we rely on them a lot now because all of our stuff is done digitally. We do not take any paper copies at all. So everything that is supplied to us is on that computer for review.
Okay, so what are we seeing then on the 19th?
Rezone on the
A
9th.
rezone on the 19th.
On the 5th.
5th of December.
But are we
December,
meeting
no.
December 19th?
Oh,
We're not planning.
okay, so this month is the reason.
Are we doing the annexation on the 5th also?
Or November.
21st is not being decided.
That's right, we pushed
I
it
think
to
you just- I
January.
think they added that.
Still on the docket.
Okay, just,
But even though it says nothing on November 21st, we do have a rezone.
No, it's
no, on the 5th of December.
We're planning on meeting unless otherwise told on the 21st of November.
We are not meeting on the
We're not meeting on
21st.
the 21st.
Fifth is the next time.
Because we don't even have a plat ready to come forward at that point. So
Okay.
that's the only thing that could make that meeting.
So nothing on the 21st. We will meet on December 5th, not December 19th.
Correct.
And then we decided January.
We shifted you back a week.
Okay,
So it's like the 8th or 9th?
it's the 9th.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that's when we've got you for then. So those are the ones you have coming up.
Okay.
So Thanksgiving, you can leave early. Christmas, you can leave early. It's all yours. Anyways, thank you. We appreciate your help.
all right, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
That was my doctor.